the OMB describing Black Americans and African Americans as belonging to a black racial group of Africa is a general definition. It shows no respect for those individual human beings. So you do not have an identity right now. You do not have a birthright. America has told you you do not have a ethnicity. But every immigrant do. Every immigrant that's currently in America, that will be born later in America, has a recognized ethnicity. Every one of them. Every human being, every immigrant that has come to America, America has recognized their ethnicity. America has recognized their national origin. America has recognized their nation. Well, Black Americans and African Americans, where are those three things? Because if you folks want to be Black Americans, you need to go to a blood bank. All of you need to go to a blood bank and give your blood, and that blood has to be evaluated if you are a new ethnicity, and it has to be established. It simply has to be established. If you want so desperately to be a Black American person, then all of you have to go to a blood bank and give your blood, and that blood has to be evaluated and include all those persons who have similar blood matches that want to identify as Black American. Because every human being comes from an original bloodline, whether that's one bloodline, two bloodlines, three bloodlines, but every human being comes from an original bloodline. Where is the original bloodline for Black American? Where is the original bloodline for African American? Where is the original bloodline for Freedmen? All you persons who identify as Freedmen, all of you need to go to a blood bank and give your blood and let it be evaluated, and then it has to be recognized as a ethnicity. That's just the way biology works. That's simply how biology works. Folks don't just get to run around and claim they are something. That's why it has made it very easy for America to put every immigrant ahead of you. Do you not comprehend that you are being harmed? You have been harmed for 54 years. What are you not able to comprehend? Do you want to continue watching immigrants come into this country and get priority over you because you identify, you have no identity? What is hard to understand about that? For all you intelligent people, all you common sense people, can you please explain what is hard to comprehend about that? America has made it very clear that they recognize every immigrant human rights. They recognize every immigrant human rights. America and the whole world recognizes every immigrant's self-respect. America and the whole world recognizes every immigrant for the right for protection, the right for human protection daily. America recognizes immigrants' right to resources. Let's all say it together. Those four things have been denied of all Black Americans, all African Americans, all Freedmen, all ADOS, and all FBA. So why are you continuing to run around here and identify with something that's harming you? You're not in the first grade anymore. You're not in the seventh grade. You are adults. You know how to do critical thinking. You know how to apply logical thinking. So it's got to be a reason why you are doing it. Why are you continuing to do it? Why you folks don't have a backbone? I really would like to know why you don't have a backbone. The Palestinians gave you a prime example of a backbone. And many of you who are identifying, let me say real quick, many of you who are identifying as Black American and African American and Freedmen and ADOS and FBA, you are going to get a dose of medicine like Palestinians very soon. If you are not aware of what is going on in Palestinian, you need to research it. Those persons in Palestinian cannot walk 5 steps without going through a checkpoint. They cannot walk out their door and walk 5 steps without going through a checkpoint. They cannot sit in a living room without being monitored. They cannot go to the bathroom without being monitored. They cannot walk to the kitchen without being monitored. So all you persons who are identifying as Black American, African Americans, Freedmen, and ADOS and FBA, you do not have an identity. You do not have a recognized identity, birthright, ethnicity, national origin, or nation. So why are you insisting on continuing to identify that way? It's got to be a reason for it. Because if you truly want to identify that way, then you need to take to the streets like the Palestinians did when they were declaring genocide. Because America has genocided you on paper and in real life by real human bodies. So America is genociding you 2 ways. They are genociding you on paper. They have already completed that because they refuse to recognize your birthright. They have told you to your face that we do not recognize you having a birthright. So that's the number 1 genocide on paper. And the other genocide is being done in multiple ways. Abortion, prison, Jim Crow police gunning you down like animals, food poison, and on and on. So each of you, on top of being genocide, you are continuing to identify the way your enemy decided to let you self-identify. You told yourself that you wanted to self-identify, and you chose yourself that you were going to identify as Black American. Black American is not a original bloodline. Do y'all folks comprehend that? Black American, the term Black American is not a original bloodline. Unless you folks gonna take the time and make the effort to gather all of those blood tests and establish a recognized ethnicity of that collective bloodline of those blood tests and say, this is a new blood ethnicity. Because of slavery, the definition is just a general definition. It has no specifics whatsoever. A human being is entitled to an original birthright, a original recognized birthright. Every human being, besides those who are identifying as Black American and African American and Freedmen and ADOS and FBA and Negro, are the only human beings on the face of the earth that do not have a recognized ethnicity, a recognized identity, a recognized birthright, a recognized national origin, a recognized nation. So why are you folks still marching around here shouting to the top of your lungs, making Twitter posts, walking around on 2 legs, have that right as a human being? Well, the definition on the OMB describing Americans and African Americans as belonging to a black racial group of Africa is a general definition. It shows no respect for those individual human beings. So you do not have an identity right now. You do not have a birthright. America has told you you do not have a ethnicity. But every immigrant do. Every immigrant that's currently in America, that will be born later in America, has a recognized ethnicity. Every one of them. Every human being, every immigrant that has come to America, America has recognized their ethnicity. America has recognized their national origin. America has recognized their nation. Well, Black Americans and African Americans, where are those three things? Because if you folks want to be Black Americans, you need to go to a blood bank. All of you need to go to a blood bank and give your blood, and that blood has to be evaluated if you are a new ethnicity, and it has to be established. It simply has to be established. If you want so desperately to be a Black American person, then all of you have to go to a blood bank and give your blood, and that blood has to be evaluated and include all those persons who have similar blood matches that want to identify as Black American. Because every human being comes from an original bloodline, whether that's one bloodline, two bloodlines, three bloodlines, but every human being comes from an original bloodline. Where is the original bloodline for Black American? Where is the original bloodline for African American? Where is the original bloodline for Freedmen? All you persons who identify as Freedmen, all of you need to go to a blood bank and give your blood and let it be evaluated, and then it has to be recognized as a ethnicity. That's just the way biology works. That's simply how biology works. Folks don't just get to run around and claim they are something. That's why it has made it very easy for America to put every immigrant ahead of you. Do you not comprehend that you are being harmed? You have been harmed for 54 years. What are you not able to comprehend? Do you want to continue watching immigrants come into this country and get priority over you because you you have no identity? What is hard to understand about that? For all you intelligent people, all you common sense people, can you please explain what is hard to comprehend about that? America has made it very clear that they recognize every immigrant human rights. They recognize every immigrant human rights. America and the whole world recognizes every immigrant's self-respect. America and the whole world recognizes every immigrant for the right for protection, the right for human protection daily. America recognizes immigrants' right to resources. Let's all say it together. Those four things have been denied of all Black Americans, all African Americans, all Freedmen, all ADOS, and all FBA. So why are you continuing to run around here and identify with something that's harming you? You're not in the first grade anymore. You're not in the seventh grade. You are adults. You know how to do critical thinking. You know how to apply logical thinking. So it's got to be a reason why you are doing it. Why are you continuing to do it? why you folks don't have a backbone. I really would like to know why you don't have a backbone. The Palestinians gave you a prime example of a backbone. And many of you who are identifying, let me say real quick, many of you who are identifying as Black American and African American and Freedmen and ADOS and FBA, you are going to get a dose of medicine like Palestinians very soon. If you are not aware of what is going on in Palestinian, you need to research it. Those persons in Palestinian cannot walk 5 steps without going through a checkpoint. They cannot walk out their door and walk 5 steps without going through a checkpoint. They cannot sit in a living room without being monitored. They cannot go to the bathroom without being monitored. They cannot walk to the kitchen without being monitored. So all you persons who are identifying as Black American, African Americans, Freedmen, and ADOS and FBA, you do not have an identity. You do not have a recognized identity, birthright, ethnicity, national origin, or nation. So why are you insisting on continuing to identify that way? It's got to be a reason for it. Because if you truly want to identify that way, then you need to take to the streets like the Palestinians did when they were declaring genocide. Because America has genocided you on paper and in real life by real human bodies. So America is genociding you 2 ways. They are genociding you on paper. They have already completed that because they refuse to recognize your birthright. They have told you to your face that we do not recognize you having a birthright. So that's the number 1 genocide on paper. And the other genocide is being done in multiple ways. Abortion, prison, Jim Crow police gunning you down like animals, food poison, and on and on. So each of you, on top of being genocide, you are continuing to identify the way your enemy decided to let you self-identify. You told yourself that you wanted to self-identify, and you chose yourself that you were going to identify as Black American. Black American is not a original bloodline. Do y'all folks comprehend that? Black American, the term Black American is not a original bloodline. Unless you folks gonna take the time and make the effort to gather all of those blood tests and establish a recognized ethnicity of that collective bloodline of those blood tests and say, this is a new blood ethnicity. Because of slavery, the definition is just a general definition. It has no specifics whatsoever. A human being is entitled to an original birthright, a original recognized birthright. Every human being, besides those who are identifying as Black American and African American and Freedmen and ADOS and FBA and Negro, are the only human beings on the face of the earth that do not have a recognized ethnicity, a recognized identity, a recognized birthright, a recognized national origin, a recognized nation. So why are you folks still marching around here shouting to the top of your lungs, making Twitter posts, walking around on 2 legs, have that right as a human being? Well, the definition on the OMB describing Black Americans and African Americans as belonging to a black racial group of Africa is a general definition. It shows no respect for those individual human beings. So you do not have an identity right now. You do not have a birthright. America has told you you do not have a ethnicity. But every immigrant do. Every immigrant that's currently in America, that will be born later in America, has a recognized ethnicity. Every one of them. Every human being, every immigrant that has come to America, America has recognized their ethnicity. America has recognized their national origin. America has recognized their nation. Well, Black Americans and African Americans, where are those three things? Because if you folks want to be Black Americans, you need to go to a blood bank. All of you need to go to a blood bank and give your blood, and that blood has to be evaluated if you are a new ethnicity, and it has to be established. It simply has to be established. If you want so desperately to be a Black American person, then all of you have to go to a blood bank and give your blood, and that blood has to be evaluated and include all those persons who have similar blood matches that want to identify as Black American. Because every human being comes from an original bloodline, whether that's one bloodline, two bloodlines, three bloodlines, but every human being comes from an original bloodline. Where is the original bloodline for Black American? Where is the original bloodline for African American? Where is the original bloodline for Freedmen? All you persons who identify as Freedmen, all of you need to go to a blood bank and give your blood and let it be evaluated, and then it has to be recognized as a ethnicity. That's just the way biology works. That's simply how biology works. Folks don't just get to run around and claim they are something. That's why it has made it very easy for America to put every immigrant ahead of you. Do you not comprehend that you are being harmed? You have been harmed for 54 years. What are you not able to comprehend? Do you want to continue watching immigrants come into this country and get priority over you because you identify, you have no identity? What is hard to understand about that? For all you intelligent people, all you common sense people, can you please explain what is hard to comprehend about that? America has made it very clear that they recognize every immigrant human rights. They recognize every immigrant human rights. America and the whole world recognizes every immigrant's self-respect. America and the whole world recognizes every immigrant for the right for protection, the right for human protection daily. America recognizes immigrants' right to resources. Let's all say it together. Those four things have been denied of all Black Americans, all African Americans, all Freedmen, all ADOS, and all FBA. So why are you continuing to run around here and identify with something that's harming you? You're not in the first grade anymore. You're not in the seventh grade. You are adults. You know how to do critical thinking. You know how to apply logical thinking. So it's got to be a reason why you are doing it. Why are you continuing to do it? why you folks don't have a backbone. I really would like to know why you don't have a backbone. The Palestinians gave you a prime example of a backbone. And many of you who are identifying, let me say real quick, many of you who are identifying as Black American and African American and Freedmen and ADOS and FBA, you are going to get a dose of medicine like Palestinians very soon. If you are not aware of what is going on in Palestinian, you need to research it. Those persons in Palestinian cannot walk 5 steps without going through a checkpoint. They cannot walk out their door and walk 5 steps without going through a checkpoint. They cannot sit in a living room without being monitored. They cannot go to the bathroom without being monitored. They cannot walk to the kitchen without being monitored. So all you persons who are identifying as Black American, African Americans, Freedmen, and ADOS and FBA, you do not have an identity. You do not have a recognized identity, birthright, ethnicity, national origin, or nation. So why are you insisting on continuing to identify that way? It's got to be a reason for it. Because if you truly want to identify that way, then you need to take to the streets like the Palestinians did when they were declaring genocide. Because America has genocided you on paper and in real life by real human bodies. So America is genociding you 2 ways. They are genociding you on paper. They have already completed that because they refuse to recognize your birthright. They have told you to your face that we do not recognize you having a birthright. So that's the number 1 genocide on paper. And the other genocide is being done in multiple ways. Abortion, prison, Jim Crow police gunning you down like animals, food poison, and on and on. So each of you, on top of being genocide, you are continuing to identify the way your enemy decided to let you self-identify. You told yourself that you wanted to self-identify, and you chose yourself that you were going to identify as Black American. Black American is not a original bloodline. Do y'all folks comprehend that? Black American, the term Black American is not a original bloodline. Unless you folks gonna take the time and make the effort to gather all of those blood tests and establish a recognized ethnicity of that collective bloodline of those blood tests and say, this is a new blood ethnicity. Because of slavery, the definition is just a general definition. It has no specifics whatsoever. A human being is entitled to an original birthright, a original recognized birthright. Every human being, besides those who are identifying as Black American and African American and Freedmen and ADOS and FBA and Negro, are the only human beings on the face of the earth that do not have a recognized ethnicity, a recognized identity, a recognized birthright, a recognized national origin, a recognized nation. So why are you folks still marching around here shouting to the top of your lungs, making Twitter posts, walking around on 2 legs, have that right as a human being? Well, the definition on the OMB describing Black Americans and African Americans as belonging to a black racial group of Africa is a general definition. It shows no respect for those individual human beings. So you do not have an identity right now. You do not have a birthright. America has told you you do not have a ethnicity. But every immigrant do. Every immigrant that's currently in America, that will be born later in America, has a recognized ethnicity. Every one of them. Every human being, every immigrant that has come to America, America has recognized their ethnicity. America has recognized their national origin. America has recognized their nation. Well, Black Americans and African Americans, where are those three things? Because if you folks want to be Black Americans, you need to go to a blood bank. All of you need to go to a blood bank and give your blood. And that blood has to be evaluated if you are a new ethnicity, and it has to be established. It simply has to be established. If you want so desperately to be a Black American person, then all of you have to go to a blood bank and give your blood, and that blood has to be evaluated and include all those persons who have similar blood matches that want to identify as Black American. Because every human being comes from an original bloodline, whether that's one bloodline, two bloodlines, three bloodlines, but every human being comes from an original bloodline. Where is the original bloodline for Black American? Where is the original bloodline for African American? Where is the original bloodline for Freedmen? All you persons who identify as Freedmen, all of you need to go to a blood bank and give your blood and let it be evaluated, and then it has to be recognized as a ethnicity. That's just the way biology works. That's simply how biology works. Folks don't just get to run around and claim they are something. That's why it has made it very easy for America to put every immigrant ahead of you. Do you not comprehend that you are being harmed? You have been harmed for 54 years. What are you not able to comprehend? Do you want to continue watching immigrants come into this country and get priority over you because you identify, you have no identity? What is hard to understand about that? For all you intelligent people, all you common sense people, can you please explain what is hard to comprehend about that? America has made it very clear that they recognize every immigrant human rights. They recognize every immigrant human rights. America and the whole world recognizes every immigrant's self-respect. America and the whole world recognizes every immigrant for the right for protection, the right for human protection daily. America recognizes immigrants' right to resources. Let's all say it together. Those four things have been denied of all Black Americans, all African Americans, all Freedmen, all ADOS, and all FBA. So why are you continuing to run around here and identify with something that's harming you? You're not in the first grade anymore. You're not in the seventh grade. You are adults. You know how to do critical thinking. You know how to apply logical thinking. So it's got to be a reason why you are doing it. Why are you continuing to do it? why you folks don't have a backbone. I really would like to know why you don't have a backbone. The Palestinians gave you a prime example of a backbone. And many of you who are identifying, let me say real quick, many of you who are identifying as Black American and African American and Freedmen and ADOS and FBA, you are going to get a dose of medicine like Palestinians very soon. If you are not aware of what is going on in Palestinian, you need to research it. Those persons in Palestinian cannot walk 5 steps without going through a checkpoint. They cannot walk out their door and walk 5 steps without going through a checkpoint. They cannot sit in a living room without being monitored. They cannot go to the bathroom without being monitored. They cannot walk to the kitchen without being monitored. So all you persons who are identifying as Black American, African Americans, Freedmen, and ADOS and FBA, you do not have an identity. You do not have a recognized identity, birthright, ethnicity, national origin, or nation. So why are you insisting on continuing to identify that way? It's got to be a reason for it. Because if you truly want to identify that way, then you need to take to the streets like the Palestinians did when they were declaring genocide. Because America has genocided you on paper and in real life by real human bodies. So America is genociding you 2 ways. They are genociding you on paper. They have already completed that because they refuse to recognize your birthright. They have told you to your face that we do not recognize you having a birthright. So that's the number 1 genocide on paper. And the other genocide is being done in multiple ways. Abortion, prison, Jim Crow police gunning you down like animals, food poison, and on and on. So each of you, on top of being genocide, you are continuing to identify the way your enemy decided to let you self-identify. You told yourself that you wanted to self-identify, and you chose yourself that you were going to identify as Black American. Black American is not a original bloodline. Do y'all folks comprehend that? Black American, the term Black American is okay, folks. How we doing? This is Who Did You Boycott Today? This is a very, very unexpected broadcast. I did not plan on doing a broadcast. I really got other things that I'm focusing my attention on right now. I'm kind of trying to focus my attention a little bit on politics to research each of the candidates on the sample ballot for North Carolina. And seeing as how I just relocated back here in July, I have not even had a chance to unpack. So I'm busy working on my entrepreneur stuff, and I just got my plate piled high. But anyway, as we think about these politics, as you can see from my title, that we have got to pull our heads out the sand and start realizing what's at stake here. Because I don't think folks are really comprehending what is at stake. There's a lot of rumors flying around. I'm sure some of you may have heard of some of them. I have my own personal rumors that fly around in my head, and I guess I'll share some of that with you. But where do you start? I mean, where do you start when you've been fighting for over 400 years just to be recognized as a human being? Where do you start over that span of time of well over 400 years? There's so much along the way, excuse me, of that span of over 400 years. It's hard to pick a spot to where to start. Well, I'm going to start with my birthright. When I took my first breath and came into the world, that's where I'm going to start, because that was the start for me to come into the world. When I took that first breath and I took my next breath and my next breath, and somehow I kept on breathing. So I guess they assumed that I was going to stay alive. But unfortunately, my mother shared with me that after being delivered at home and then later taken to the hospital, they had to put me in some type of machine to try to keep me alive. They didn't think I was going to make it. And so we know there's no guarantees. There's just no guarantees with that first breath. But that is where I'm going to start, since I'm still here breathing at 62 years old, with the blessings of the Heavenly Father and my mother praying, and I guess and the doctors doing whatever they had to do to keep me alive. I stayed alive, and my mother got to take me home. So I can't start anywhere else but with that first breath. That's my birthright. Well, folks have an attachment to the identity Black American. They have attachments to the identity African American. They have an attachment to the identity Freedmen. They have the attachment to the identity ADOS. They have an attachment to the identity FBA. As you can see, I did not say Negro, because it don't seem like a lot of folks are jumping through hoops to identify as Negro. So, but I don't think you folks understand something. The first 246 years was recorded as Negro achievements and sacrifice. It was not recorded by any of these other terms. Are we not comprehending that? That America is in the process of erasing that 246 years and are going to hand that over to the Germans, the Irish, the Asians, the Latinos, the Jamaicans, the Haitians, the Ethiopians, the Nigerians. Everybody is going to stand in line and claim they were already here during that 246 years. They are literally going to stand in line and fight each other to claim part of that 246 years. We talk about the great Black Friday. It's coming up. The good old holiday of Black Friday is coming up. I have already made my say about no longer celebrating pagan holidays. I broke it to my daughter years ago, at least 2 or 3 years ago, and she's still having trouble with it. That's very unfortunate, but at least I told her in advance that I no longer plan to celebrate pagan holidays. And I grew up on the holidays and enjoyed them until I learned better. They were very special days in my family. The Thanksgivings, the Christmas, Halloween is coming up. And I was running around gathering candy for the kids. And I said, then my best friend sent me a video and helped me to come back to my senses. So I won't be giving out candy like I plan to do. I had planned to give out the candy, but I can't do it in good conscience. That's a Satan holiday. And now that I have been informed and better informed and educated on that holiday, I cannot celebrate that holiday in good conscience. So I'm not going to be able to give out the candy now. It's painful to me, but I think about those little kids that's going to be running around in the neighborhood with their little trick-or-treat bags, and I'm not going to be able to give them any candy. So I'm not going to celebrate any of these pagan holidays. But we know Black Friday is one of the famous ones. So all of these nations, all these different ethnicities and nations are going to stand in line to claim part of that 246 years that Negro slaves carved out. They were the ones that worked on the plantations from sun up to sundown for 246 years. But now we're in the 21st century, and everybody wants to claim they were here and they were the first slaves. We got folks literally getting on in public saying Germans and Irish were the first slaves in America. We have Asians and Latinos and Mexicans claiming that they were here working on the railroads and doing this and doing that. Nobody was kicking up a fuss about claiming that first 246 years because they didn't want to be nowhere around when that was going on. They did not want their 2 feet to be on America's landmass anytime during that 246 years. But now that we're in the 21st century and we are rewriting the books, and we have governors who claim that you can't even say the word racism, that Negro history has to be erased. It cannot be taught. We have a narrative that slavery was legal. Folks are just in rare form, just rewriting narrative in real time. They are literally rewriting narrative in real time. But my concern, from what I can try to understand, is I have to understand, with all the whistles, everybody is talking, I have to try to parcel through all of that and try to make sense of what is going to impact the ancestors' sacrifice in my existence. First and foremost is, how is it going to impact the first 246 years of Negro slavery, of the ancestors sacrificing on those slave plantations from sun up to sundown, being hung and lynched and burnt and murdered and treated less than an animal for 246 years. So my thought process is that's the main focus that I have when we think about the different terms that are being used in the 21st century. We have been told that most of us have checked a box that said Black/African American. We don't know. We have an estimate of when we started checking that box. I can't tell you for sure. I'm going by hearsay, because I certainly cannot tell you with a straight face when I remember starting to check that box. But I clearly know that Negro slavery was recorded. It was documented very, very thoroughly, because they were very proud of it. They never thought, I guess they assumed it was never going to end, or they were just so proud of it and they were so evil that they didn't give it a second thought when they were recording it. They just kept recording it day after day, because each one of those bodies were money. And so when you keeping track of money,
you try to do a thorough job of it. You don't want to make no mistakes. So those evil human beings, they didn't see those bodies as human beings. They saw them as money. And so because they saw that human being as being just money, they kept very, very good records. And they recorded it. Every time they put a human being up for sale, they made sure to advertise it, say this Negro is up for sale. They didn't say this black person is up for sale, because I have not seen any documentation that said a black person is up for sale today. I have not seen one document that said a African American is up for sale today. I have yet to see one document that said a freedman is up for sale today as a slave. I have yet to see, well, ADOS and FBA had not been invented yet. It just had not been invented. So it wasn't even being spoken. But if we adults with intelligence and common sense know that Negro slavery was recorded as Negro slavery and not any of these other terms, don't common sense say that is the priority to protect that history? That should be the number one priority, to protect and preserve that history, because that was the beginning. That came first. What came first can never be replaced. Anything that came later would never carry the same weight. It would never carry the same weight or the precedence that one thing that came first. Black American would never carry the same weight and precedence that 246 years of Negro slavery carries. I don't care how many times we say it out of our mouth. We can say Black American and all these terms out of our mouth as many times as we want. But it's never going to carry the same weight of 246 years. It's just never going to be that. But folks don't seem to be concerned about that. Folks don't really seem to be concerned about all of those patents and inventions that were documented and recorded as Negro inventions or patents. They are all being erased too. But first, America had to erase the blood off of their hands of 246 years. That's all America cares about. That's all the whole world cares about. That's all the OMB care about. That's all the U.S. Congress care about. That's all the U.S. Senate cares about. That's all the president and the vice president and all these nations. They all playing a part. No, don't be mistaken. Don't be mistaken that every one of these nations are playing a part. It's gotten so bad that folks, I'm going to say a little bit about these Pan-Africans for a while. Let me just stop in what I started to say. I got to stop in midstream and say a few words about these Pan-Africans. They seem to be overjoyed. I think some of them are overjoyed that there's a possibility that descendants of slaves could be deported out of America. I think they are really secretly hoping that happens. I know I've heard a few persons from the African continent voice it out loud. They didn't have to tell me that. I already knew that in my gut. I didn't have to hear the words come out of any human being's mouth to already have reached that evaluation. I think I started reaching that evaluation in the last year, that there are human beings that are feeling that they are okay if it comes down to the point that descendants of Negro ancestors who are descendants of slaves on America's landmass. I'm going to try to say what I have to say without saying the word Black American and African American, and Freedmen and ADOS and FBA. All persons who are claiming to be descendants of slaves in America during that 246 years, I personally believe that those persons who run around claiming to be Pan-Africans secretly want those descendants to be deported back to Africa, and they'll never, some of them will admit it, but these Pan-Africans, they need to understand, they may use your body, they may decide to use your body to replace one of those descendants of slaves, because I know and you know they will prefer to walk out their door and face you than to face a descendant of a slave person. If I was walking in their shoes, I probably would prefer the same thing. Because I have a brain in my head, if I am a pale, pink-skinned, evil person that enslaved another human being, if they gave me a choice to walk out my door day after day and not have to lay my eyes on one of those descendants, more than likely, I'm going to choose to lay my eyes on another brown-skinned person that I did not enslave their descendants, their ancestors on this landmass. Now, if that person got enslaved somewhere in Africa, if they got enslaved somewhere in England, if they got enslaved somewhere in Jamaica, that don't bother me. I just don't want to lay my eyes on one of those persons who I enslaved their ancestors. And America has been feeling that way for a very long time. When they started orchestrating their diabolical plan to erase, to make slavery legal, and then later on, they decided to leave a birth identity off the birth certificate. They made a conscious decision for that baby to go home from the hospital without an identity on a birth certificate. They made a conscious decision to do that. That just should never happen in a functioning society. A functioning society, not one baby should leave the hospital without a birthright, without a ethnicity. That's a birthright. That birthright is decided before any of us take our first breath. That's just out of our control. That's not in any of our control. I didn't control what bloodline I was going to come from before I took my first breath. That was decided before I took that first breath. That mother and father who came together and conceived a baby, whatever their bloodline was, that was their bloodline. I didn't have anything to say about it. Aquilin did not get to have a vote. That bloodline was already decided before I took that first breath. And we can't change that. We can't wake up in the 21st century and make up terms. We can't make up terms and then pass that on to the next generation. We don't have the right to pass that on to the next generation unless all persons who are currently being told they have to check a box that says Black/African American, all those persons have to take a blood test. Each one of those persons who are being told by America that you are Black or African American, you have to go take a blood test. And all those blood tests have to be evaluated. And something in those blood test results have to show a match. That Each of these persons have something that matches in their blood test that will come, put them in the same ethnicity or bloodline. It's something on each one of their blood tests that will determine if they all belong to the same bloodline. That has not been done. As far as I know, that has never been done. As far as I know. I could be wrong. But as far as I know, America has not done no blood tests on everyone that they are telling that they are Black American. Have they? Don't you think that's wrong? Don't you think that a person, a human being, is entitled to a birthright? That's just a given. That's just a given. That each human being that take that first breath is entitled to a birthright. And it's just not a birthright that can be made up out of the clear blue air. It just cannot be made up out of the clear blue air. So, seeing as how folks are so offended and think Negro is outdated, they don't want to identify as Negro. But from my research, I'm just going by my own personal research of what I've been listening to and what I've been typing in the search boxes on Google and listening to this and listening to that, and over the last year. And from what I can make out, there are persons, I think America, I think the Jews, and I think Putin from Russia, and a person by the name of Pastor Darby. They discovered that Negro have a blood test that can determine if you belong to the Negro bloodline. Now, some folks want to say that's probably a lie. Okay, that could be a lie. If you want to say it's a lie, well, the only way to prove that it's not a lie is to do the blood test, do the blood work. We are too intelligent as adults to keep running around here just saying something that's a lie, and then we don't take any action to prove one way or the other. Because that child is going to be born, they deserve to have a birthright. They deserve, and I deserve, to have a birthright. And no one is going to take that from me. I'm going to fight tooth and nail until I die for my birthright. America has stripped my ancestors, my mother, and myself of more than I can ever count up. But the one thing I will not back down or stop fighting for is my birthright. That's the last straw. That's the last straw on the camel's back. America has done all. They're going to keep on doing their evil. America's going to keep on doing their evil with the help of all these other nations and all these persons that come to America that get programmed to look down on Negroes. They're going to keep right on doing it. I can't control any of that. I have not an ounce of control over any of that. But what I do have a say in is my birthright. And no one is ever going to take that from me but the Heavenly Father. That's the only person that can take that from me is my Heavenly Father. And that will be when I take my last breath. That will be when I take my last breath and I am dead and I am leaving this world. So, like I said at the beginning, I don't think any of these persons, and then no, let me correct myself. I think some of these persons are okay that America, that the OMB and America and the whole world wants to erase Negro. So they are okay that the OMB removed Negro from the census report. But they didn't, I don't think they stopped to think, well, the Freedmen, they have been trying to get the OMB to replace the term Negro with the term Freedmen. So I don't know how many folks in the Freedmen's camp is on that mission, but some of them have said it out loud, like Marcel for Congress. This man gets on a public app and makes the statement that Freedmen, that America is doing everything they can to keep Freedmen at the bottom, like Negroes never existed. That man don't even say the word Negro out of his mouth. Marcel for Congress, I need for those of you who are his friend, his associate, his clique, to ask him the question: what was those persons' bloodline before they told themselves, or they decided they wanted to be freedmen? What was their original bloodline before they got that piece of paper that gave them that legal status of freedom? Freedom. I think me and another person were having a conversation. Those persons back in those days, they didn't pronounce things in a clear pronunciation. So when they were pronouncing the word freedom, they said freeman. They didn't mean the word freeman. They were trying to pronounce the word freedom, but they pronounced it freeman. And then it just stuck. It just stuck like everything else that we notice in life. Something is said, and then another person picks it up and starts repeating it, and it just starts being used. But unless Marcel for Congress have a blood test that he can take and every person in his family can take that can be traced back to original bloodline, that's made up. It's simply made up. Because every human being is born into an original bloodline. They come from somewhere. They come from original bloodline. So if Marcel for Congress gets on a public app and claim that the Freedmen built America, when did the Freedmen build America when it's been recorded as Negro slaves built America? So can someone explain to Marcel for Congress that he's telling a bald-faced lie every time he get on a public app and say that statement? The same way he tried to leave his mother and father out of the civil rights movement. He didn't want them to be blamed, but he wanted all the other elders to be blamed. But he wanted to make sure that everyone that was listening to him, that his mother and father was in their teens. So don't blame them. They won't adults yet. So they can't be blamed. This man, I am convinced after listening to him for well over a year, every time he's moving his lips, he's lying. Some kind of way, he don't stretch something into a lie. But I know those two specific things, I know without a shadow of a doubt he lied about. So when I sit back and listen to you, and I can pinpoint without any confusion, pinpoint a specific lie that came out of your mouth, then I know that I can't believe anything else that come out of your mouth until you can prove to me that you know how to tell the truth. If I can listen to you and pinpoint specific things that you are saying out your mouth that I know is concrete proof that's a lie, because it's concrete proof that Negro slaves built America. But if you listen to Marcel for Congress, you would think Freedmen built America. So Marcel for Congress is okay with America erasing that 246 years and inserting the word freedmen. He's A-okay with that. And persons like him. He's not the only one. All you persons who are identifying as Black American, you are also helping that 246 years to be erased because it was not recorded other than by Negro slaves. It was recorded that way. Now, it would be different if they were recording that Black Americans were put up for sale as a slave. It would be another thing if they were saying African Americans were put up for sale as a slave. It would be different if they were saying freedmen is put up for sale today as a slave, but they never documented that. It was never recorded that way. So all of that 246 years, that was recorded as Negro harm being done to Negroes, every hanging that was recorded as being a Negro being hung today, a Negro being lynched today, a Negro being burnt today, a Negro being murdered today, all of that recorded history, it said Negro. It did not say the word Black. It did not say the word African American. It did not say the word freedman. And we know it did not say the word ADOS and FBA because those had not been invented yet. So everywhere in the archive of the Negro history that was recorded with the term Negro, everywhere that word has been printed will be erased, which they have already started. They have already started changing the books. We already know about that. We already have heard about how they are changing the book and putting in all the books Black American and African American. Google search engine. You can't go to a Google search engine and search for the word Negro and try to hope that something comes back in the search result. It's almost impossible. But lo and behold, I did decide to do that the other day. I sure did. I shimmied on over to Google search engine and I typed in the Google search box, protect and preserve the Negro ancestors' sacrifice and achievement. I typed that whole line in the search box because I was doing something. I can't remember what I was exactly working on at that very moment. And you know what happened? The very website that I'm building to gather information about the Negro ancestors' history, it came up in the search result. I was so shocked that I clicked on the link and didn't even realize it was my own website until I went to it. That's just how busy my poor mind is, or that I just could not believe my eyes that something came back in the search result. I literally sat there looking at the search result for about a few minutes before I clicked on it. And I clicked on it, and lo and behold, it was my very own website that I had been building. So I can't tell you brain dead human beings what to do, but I am going to dedicate my life, the rest of the days I got left to live, to put Negro every chance I get. I'm going to mess up those algorithms. I'm going to mess up that AI. I'm going to mess up those search engines. I'm going to do everything in my little small brain that I can think of to do to keep on spelling out Negro. I mean, I spend every single day I wake up, I take every opportunity that I get to spell out Negro. Because as long as I keep on spelling out Negro, it cannot disappear. they cannot just have a cakewalk to erase it. So I'm just not gonna have a clear conscience. I'm just not gonna have a clear conscience if I don't keep on making sure they don't think they can just have a little cakewalk and think they can just get away with erasing a true bloodline. Because I think it's gonna be proven that Negro is a true bloodline. So since we are at this crossroad, folks don't want to be Negro. They don't want to protect and preserve that 246 years. They don't care to protect all of those ancestors that fought in those wars. They don't care about all those inventions and patents. So they don't care about that. They care more about identifying as Black American, African American, Freedmen, ADOS, and FBA. And I have already spoken about the Pan-Africans. It's a lot of those Pan-Africans and African folks who are okay. They are probably secretly hoping that America finds a way to deport descendants of slaves back to Africa. I think there's a lot of them that really want that to happen. And these sorry human beings, they care more about getting up day after day and identifying as Black American than they do about what's going on in their own nation. But they're going to get, all of us are going to get our just due. Each one of us are going to get our just due. So all these folks like the hard Black truth, Akata Black girl, who else over there in their camp? Just all those folks who in that camp. Melissa, who else has jumped to my mind? It's a lot of men folks that I pop in anonymously and listen to. I don't know they avatar name by heart, but all those folks who gather together in the Pan-African space, they wake up day after day, and all they care about is FBA. They are fixated on that hashtag FBA. They are fixated on that the white man see me as Black, so I'm Black. The white man told me I'm Black, so I'm Black. America told me I'm Black American, so I'm Black American. When the policeman pulled me over, I'm Black, so I'm Black. So, all these persons who get up day after day and waste time, they don't care about the suffering that's going on in Jamaica. They don't care about the suffering that's going on in Haiti. They don't care about the suffering that's going on the continent, because all these persons who have these phones in their hand, that each one of these persons who claim to be Pan-African that have a phone in their hand, why are they not boycotting? They are safely on America's landmass, and all they need to do is go to Google search engine and search for updates on what is going on back in their own nation. They don't care about that, because from my research, it's a little under 5 million. It's a little under 5 million. So it could be more or less, but it's not a whole lot more or less. But we're just gonna estimate that it's somewhere around 5 million immigrants from Jamaica, Haiti, the Bahamas, the continent, and all Europe, all over the world, Canada, everywhere you can think of. Just make it simple. There's a rough estimate that America has given out a visa card to somewhere in the ballpark of 5 million. But they have given out visa cards to all these other nationalities, all these other folks coming from these other nations, well over 90%. Well over 90%. But those persons who come from Jamaica, Haiti, the Bahamas, the continent, Europe, Canada, Australia, wherever you came from, now that you're in America, why are you not boycotting to fight for change in your own country? You said America caused destruction. You have said it more times than you can count. that America is guilty of causing destruction in your nation, that caused you to have to leave your nation. So now that you have left your nation, that your mother or father left a nation, and now that you are an adult, why are you not boycotting around the clock? Every waking moment you should be spending boycotting. You just boycott until something works. If you really care about the destruction that America done to your nation. If you really cared about the destruction that you claim that America has done, America has robbed you of your resources. America has propped up governments that they put in place. Then if you had the ability, or your mother and father had the ability to leave your nation temporarily, we'll say temporarily, and you came to another nation, your thinking cap should be that I need to figure out how to help my nation back home. That's what I should be thinking about every waking moment. But again, I think a lot of you persons, you are okay with that definition on the OMB, because it does apply to every immigrant. That's the shocking part. The shocking part is that the definition on the OMB recognizes every immigrant. Not a one is missing. Native Americans, Hawaiians, Jamaicans, Germans, Irish, Asians, Latinos, Mexicans. The only one missing is Black American and African American. Those are the only two terms on that OMB that do not have a recognized ethnicity, that do not have a recognized nation, national origin, that do not have a recognized nation. The only two terms on that OMB website that do not have a recognized ethnicity, a recognized national origin, is Black American / African American. That's not by accident. Folks, that is not by accident. While all you adults are running around here with your head buried in the sand, folks are starting to have rumors that the Republicans want to change something about that 14th Amendment. I've been saying for months now that I believe, before I say that other part, I've been saying on my broadcast, on my other recordings, go back and listen to it. I've been telling you folks that the Jews of Israel are planning on deporting your behind back to Africa. I just feel it in my guts. I've been feeling it in my guts for a couple of months now, and I've been talking about it. But y'all don't want to believe it. Y'all don't believe Dookie stinks. That's one, I think, I'm just gonna lay it all out there. Y'all can believe it if you want. I'm just gonna I'm gonna dump it off my brain. I think the number one strategy is that the Jews in America don't want to pay restitution. They want the history of slavery completely erased. They have already started that process, and they're not going to stop until they get it done. And I don't know how they plan to get it done if the human bodies of those descendants of those slave people are physically still in America. It's just not going to go away for them. It's not going to go away enough for them. If those human bodies of those descendants from those slaves are still walking around in America with their 2 feet, America and the Jews are not going to feel that they have completed their agenda to erase slavery and to erase Negro. They got to figure this out, because they don't want their bloodline to wake up 18 years from now and have to hear about 246 years of Negro slavery. They are planning that when that child is going to be born, say tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, when they turn 18, or before they turn 18 and start learning about history, they don't want anyone talking about no Negro slavery. They don't want any teachers, any professors talking about Negro slavery. So when that child of theirs, when they send a child to school or out into the public, they don't want any of their children to ever hear about the Negro slavery of 246 years. So America and the whole world, because when America erases slavery over here, it's going to have a ripple effect around the world. So for all you folks who have been sabotaging Negro justice claim over here, all you doing is hammering nails in your own coffin. Because if America don't ever recognize slavery over here, I don't think any of you other nations or landmass have a chance in hell of them ever recognizing it around the world. But y'all thought y'all was gonna be able to attach your slavery to America's slavery when that don't work. That's just not how things work in real life. I can't go to Germany. Aquilin can't get on an airplane and fly to Germany and say, Germany, I am bringing a claim that you enslaved, you benefited from my ancestors' slavery, and so you owe me a debt. So Germany, I'm expecting you to pay this debt. Now that I'm living in your country, Germany, I'm living in your country, and I have done my research, and it shows me that you benefited from slavery. So you owe a debt to me for enslaving my ancestors. You see how foolish that sounds? Do you see how foolish that sounds? But see, you folks are so ungrateful, and you just hate the thought of these 50 million descendants of slaves in America get something that you may not get. So you just say, we just going to make sure that nobody get it. We just going to make sure that nobody get it. So we're going to make sure that if we cannot include every melanated person. We had another brain dead person on Terrain's Twitter space last night claiming that all melanated persons deserve to be paid for the harm that they suffered in America because they have brown skin and dark brown skin, and they suffer through redlining, and they suffer through racism, and they suffer through discrimination. Do y'all know how foolish that sounds? That's somebody, and from what I can gather, he really harped on Muslim. He stood on his Muslim bloodline. He claimed that he have descendants from America, but I need to see some paperwork. I need to see some paperwork on this person who's running with Jill Stein, because I just can't believe the way he was talking, the way he was harping on Arab this and Arab that and Congo this and Congo that and Jamaica and all these other nations. I got in late. I got into the room late, but I don't remember hearing him in the length of time that I was in there listening. I don't think I remember him saying the word Black American out of his mouth one time. I kept hearing him say Muslim. I kept hearing him say Arab. I heard him mention Congo. I didn't hear him talk about doing. He claimed that he was for reparation, but he is for the repair of all brown-skinned human beings. Well, all you brain-dead human beings who think that sounds sensible, you can't get paid for discrimination. That's just the society that you environment that you were born into, that you came to or you were born into. You either got on an airplane, a boat, a train, you walked, you got in a car, you just came to America and you knew that you were going to face discrimination. Unless you were brain dead, you knew you were going to face racism. You knew that America had let it be known that they were mistreating Negroes from the 1619 up to the present day. Did you think that stopped? Do you think, do y'all want us to believe that before you got that Visa card, you had convinced yourself that discrimination and racism ended in 1865? Oh, no, you thought it ended in 1900? Oh, you thought it ended in 1950? Oh, you thought it ended in 2000? No, you didn't lie to yourself and convince yourself of that. Before you accepted that Visa card, you already knew the environment that America was built on. It was built on slavery. It was built on genociding the Native Americans and American Indians. I don't know how you could not have known that. Not one of you, your mother and father, if they didn't know that, then you should have looked it up when you became an adult as you were growing up. So it's no excuse. Somebody along the way should have looked it up, because from what I know, the internet has been online since at least by 2000. So it's no excuse for anyone to be getting on a public app and saying that all brown skin and dark brown skinned persons deserve to be paid. Are you crazy? Do you not? Are you really living in the real world? Do you not know the history of this landmass that America almost wiped out? They almost wiped out the Native Americans, American Indians, or Aboriginal. They meant for slavery to wipe out the Negroes. they just wanted that money. They just wanted to keep making that money off of those human bodies. So they just didn't want to kill off. They didn't want to murder all of them. So, but if it would have been left up to them, they would have wished that slavery had murdered every one of those Negroes. So all of you folks who got Visa cards, I can't go to Germany and cry about Germany, any mistreatment that I go through in Germany, if I volunteer to go there. I can't get there and be there for 5 or 10 years and say, oh, I got to complain about all the suffering that I went through for all of these 5 and 10 years that I've been in Germany. I'm now ready to complain because I feel that I have been here long enough. Now I can really speak up and complain about the mistreatment that I'm going through for the past 5 or 10 years. So now I'm going to let it be known. That's brain dead. You know good and darn well, each one of you adults know good and darn well that not one person that came to America that went through racism, discrimination, got pulled over by the policeman, they went through redlining. And so now you think your suffering compares, that your suffering, your little 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years suffering compares to 246 years of slavery. How is that fair? It's not. But when you hear someone talking that way, you know you're not listening to an honest person, because there's no way in hell that any person that's operating on honesty would say that those two things belong together. That those persons who descend from slaves and a debt is owed, that those persons who came later on should get compensated because they came to America and they suffered through discrimination and racism and redline. That it don't even you can't even really, I don't know how you get the words out your mouth and claim to be an honest person. Because there's no way in hell that if you are saying that those two things should be side by side and compared, already you have shown anyone that's listening to you that you're not honest. So that's where we at, folks. I kind of forgot where I left off at. I was talking about those Pan-Africans. Yep. I said those Pan-Africans need to be boycotting around the clock, but they're not going to do it. They get up day after day and cry about FBA, cry about cosplaying Black American. But it's going to come a day that a lot of you folks who have a nation to go back to, you're going to wish to God that you had booked that airplane ticket and went back home. But some of you think you're going to replace, a lot of you think you're going to replace, and you're going to bring some more of your family members over. You're going to replace the population of the descendants of Negroes. You really have convinced yourself that America prefer to deal with you than the descendants. And you're right. You got that part. You got it halfway right. But only time will tell. Only time will tell whether these Pan-Africans who are wishing that descendants of Negro ancestors get deported back to Africa are those ones who don't care about immigrants taking jobs away from those who have been here for hundreds of years. They don't care. It's downright pitiful when human beings that have to leave their country come to another country to try to have a better life. And all immigrants, they do stick together. They really do. They can, immigrant can be from Canada, and an immigrant can be from Libya or Europe, and they just automatically connect with each other. They just automatically stand together because they feel they have a right to come to America because America has destroyed their country. And that makes common sense. If another nation has come to your nation and caused destruction, and you have an opportunity to go to relocate yourself for a better chance at life, you have every right to decide to do that. But I just can't make sense of why you would stay. I don't think I would want to stay. If I had to leave temporarily, I would make that difficult decision to leave, but I wouldn't leave and not go back home. I just couldn't do that. I just don't see how folks do that. They just come over here and they say, "Well, I'm American. I'm white American. I'm Black American because America told me that I'm that." The very American that caused you to have to leave your nation. The very American that you swear down that caused you to have to leave your nation, that caused destruction. It's the very words that are coming out of your mouth that America told me I'm white American. America told me I'm Black American, so I'm that. But if you had to come, why didn't you just come and save and get and research and get and learn everything you can learn? If it takes 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and then go back, why not go back and make America or whatever nation that caused destruction in your nation, make them suffer? Why stay away? It just don't make sense. Why stay away? If you know that you are from Jamaica, if you know you are from the continent and America is in your nation, if Russia is in your nation, if China is in your nation, if Europe is in your nation, stealing your resources and causing genocide of your people, why stay away? Why not leave temporarily and then return and say, I'm going to do everything in my power to force these nations out of my nation. I'm not going to just stay in those other nations and know that all those people are back there suffering. I'm just not going to sit up on an audio app and fixate myself on FBA when persons in my nation are dying daily. But I got luxury time to get up day after day and complain about FBA. I got luxury. I have the luxury to wake up day after day and cosplay as Black American. I got the luxury to get up day after day and say, immigration is not a problem. You see, there's a sickness in the air, and each of us can be affected by it if we don't have standards, if we don't have a character. No matter where you can go to Europe, you can go to Canada, you can go to Germany, you can go to Jamaica, you can be in America. Every environment has a sickness of evil and corruption and dishonesty. If you cannot learn how to be strong enough to function in that environment and not let it impact you in a negative way, and that you start picking up some of those sickness, then you're just going to be damaged by it. And a lot of you folks have just come to the conclusion that you're entitled to come to America and turn your nose up at the suffering that Negroes have been going through for well over 400 years, because America and other nations caused destruction in your nation. So since you can explain to yourself that you don't have to care about the harm that immigration does day to day. You don't have to care about that until it knocks at your door. Because one day, very soon, that knock is going to be at your door. And that immigration problem is going to be knocking at your door. And that's when your tune is going to change. See, human beings don't care about stuff until it's right at their doorstep. That's when they start caring about it. So all these immigrants, all these Pan-Africans that get up day after day and cry about FBA, cry about not being able to cosplay as Black Americans, cry about folks not wanting immigration to impact their day-to-day life in a negative way, but they okay with it. They perfectly okay with it. But the day is going to come. The day is going to come when that knock is going to be at their door and immigration is going to impact them. That's the day they're going to change their tune. And they're going to feel different about it, but they're not going to tell anyone. They're going to keep it a secret. They're going to keep it a secret, and they're going to just try to get through it. And they'll never tell anybody how it impacted their life negatively, because they're immigrant. All immigrants have a connection. They had to flee. They had to leave their nation and relocate. And they just have a unspoken bond. They have an unspoken bond that cannot be separated. But I want to get back, because I want to get off of here. I'm going to go to bed. I want to get back to the gist of my broadcast before I lose my train of thought. I done talked about those sorry Pan-Africans long enough. They're gonna get their downfall, because they just praying and hoping. They clearly know that America is harming Negroes and Black American descendants of slaves, but they don't care that they all they care about is their own self-interest. Not one of them care that America is robbing Negroes and Black American descendants of slaves of their identity, of their birthright, of their ethnicity, of their national origin, of their nation. They don't care about any of those 5 things because they got a nation. They proudly say it all the time. I'm Jamaican. I'm Haiti. I'm Bahamas. I'm this. I'm Ethiopian. I'm Somalia. I'm Nigerian. But then they get over to America and want to be confused that they should not have the right to identify the same way that other person. I can't get on an airplane tomorrow and go to Jamaica and tell everybody in Jamaica that I'm Jamaican now. Aquilin has decided because this country, Jamaica, is not going to tell me that I'm Jamaican. And even if Jamaican told me I was Jamaican, I would know that I'm not. So just because America tells you that you are something don't mean you have to accept it. Don't mean that you have to be in agreement. When you know, if you know clearly that by America allowing you to identify that way is causing harm, then you are complicit. You are okay with the harm that America is doing because you're not opening any rooms and saying, America, you should not be allowing persons coming from Jamaica and Haiti and the Bahamas and the continent to identify the same way as Negroes and Black American descendants of slaves. But you don't never say anything about that. You don't never talk about it. You don't never speak up against it. So you're complicit. You are complicit. If I went to Jamaica and I agree with something that was harming Jamaican people and I didn't speak up against it, then I would be complicit to it. It's just that simple. So for all you folks that despise America's landmass, you who despise that America caused destruction to your nation, but you comfortably sitting over here and not doing anything to help your nation, you're not boycotting. That's the only thing that will really have an impact. Protesting, marching, voting, those 3 things are never going to have an impact because when persons have power, they care about money, power, and control. And if you cannot figure out a way to hurt them in those 3 areas, money, power, and control, then it's a waste of time. It's just simple. They're not going to want to do anything. You're going to have to force them to want to do it. The same way those port strikers, when they went on strike, it only took less than 3 days. They went on strike. 1 day passed, 2 days passed. They didn't even make it to the 3rd day before those demons came to the table and negotiated an agreement. Did you see how quickly that happened? Because corporations, they don't like to lose money. They don't like to lose money. So all you brain dead human beings from Jamaica, Haiti, the Bahamas, the continent, all you got to do is boycott these social media platforms. The same thing I tell my people that it falls on deaf ear. It's the same thing I'm going to tell you because it's no different. It's the same thing I've been preaching for the past 2 years, well over 2 years. So it's the same thing that I can tell you folks because I know my heart goes out to those that are suffering. I've always had a caring heart. But when I wake up day after day and see all you adults opening rooms and being so comfortable, you have gotten so comfortable with mistreatment. I think you just have gotten comfortable with suffering. Knowing about suffering and then getting up on a public app and feeling so relaxed and overjoyed. You're laughing, you're joking, you're laughing, you're joking, you're laughing, you're joking. So the only evaluation that I can do is that you're comfortable. You have gotten comfortable with being mistreated or seeing others be mistreated. It's caught on camera, it's recorded, and folks post it. Folks get murdered. Folks get mistreated. They get evicted because they can't get a job. They get kicked out of public school. They go to prison. They go to jail. And you folks just wake up like nothing is happening. You're just downright comfortable. You've gotten downright comfortable with Jim Crow policemen gunning folks down. You don't give it a second thought. You talk about it for about less than 24 hours, and then you get up the next day like nothing happened. Just don't even skip a beat. You don't even skip a beat. You wake up, you talk about it you put a title in your room for about a day. Then the next day you wake up, it's like nothing happened. You go right back to being comfortable. Go right back to being comfortable. So like I've said, it's no excuse for all that suffering that's going on in Jamaica, Haiti, the Bahamas, the continent, and around the world, and folks are not boycotting around the clock. That's the only thing you should be thinking about from every second of the day is boycott. You boycott every way that you can think of until it force your enemy to meet your demands. The same way those strike dockers got those companies to meet their demands. It didn't take long. All it took was some backbone. All it took was a commitment and some backbone, and they came to the table because they don't want to lose money. They do not want to lose money. And as long as they think they're going to lose money, they are going to find a way to come to that table and negotiate because they're not going to want to lose money. So I'm going to ask the question again. What would it hurt to boycott Twitter? What would it hurt to boycott YouTube? How will it be painful to you to boycott Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Clubhouse? Do you adults have the backbone to do that? Oh no, you're too comfortable. You ain't about to do that. I'm just sitting back and observing. I'm gonna be honest with you folks. I'm just sitting back and observing. I don't think you adults have the backbone to do it. No. It will mess up all the fun that you have, and you having too much fun laughing and joking and laughing and joking. You don't want nothing to disrupt all that fun that you having. So you're just not gonna care about doing no boycott. But then you'll get on a public app and call other folks anti-black. It's pitiful. It's downright pitiful. When you wake up, each one of you wake up day after day and you tell your enemy that you don't have the backbone to demand for change. That's what you tell your enemy, because your enemy is sitting there with their headphone on and listening to you laughing and joking. They say them folks that we mistreat every single day, every second of the day, they so comfortable. They having a good old time. They laughing and joking like we just ain't killed. Like we ain't just murdered one of them. Like we ain't just mistreated them. Like they don't even give it a second thought. When a teenager cannot walk down the street in his own neighborhood without being harassed and threatened, when a teenager man, I'm gonna say boy, and I want to call him a man, can let him have his adolescent years. The young man, the young teenager cannot walk down the street of his own neighborhood because of pink, pale Caucasians are threatening him. How do you ADOS get up the next day and laugh and joke? How did that happen? How do you feel so comfortable? Because I know most of you saw the video, because I seen the video more than one time. It popped up on my Twitter timeline. So I certainly seen the video, and I seen a couple of rooms in the Twitterland hallway that y'all talked about it. But you got up the next day like nothing happened. And you went back to joking and laughing, and you just clocked into your slave plantation like nothing happened. You just took your little index finger and tapped on that icon and clocked in. So I got to clock in today. I got to get on this audio app, social media platform today, and run my mouth. I talked about that teenager being picked on and threatened yesterday. That's over and done with. So now I'm gonna wake up today, and I'm going on my merry way and have my own fun and laugh and joke. Like that did not happen yesterday. I did not talk about that yesterday. So maybe you got me mixed up with someone. But today, now yesterday I might have been talking about that, but I have short memory and I have amnesia. So today I'm going to wake up and talk about something different, and I'm just going to laugh and joke and have fun. And I'm just going to make sure that I clock into my slave plantation. I got to make sure I take that little index finger and tap that icon and clock in. But let me get along here. It was something that really made me want to get on this app tonight. Oh yeah, the Republicans, it's a lot of whispering going on about them wanting to make changes to the 14th Amendment. Like I started to say, it's been in my gut for the past few months that my gut tells me that the reason why the OMB have that definition on the OMB website, because they are laying the groundwork to deport descendants of slaves. That's what my gut tells me. That's what God put on my spirit. And I kept it to myself for a good while before I started saying it out loud. It was a good while before I woke up one day and I felt this inside of me. I didn't go searching for it. I didn't try to conjure it up. I just woke up one day like any other normal day, and it was there. And it's been there since that day. I had this real bad feeling that when the Jews started working on getting that hate crime bill passed into Congress, and when the rumors is that Israel says their final destination is Africa after they get done trying to finish off the Palestinians and all those other folks in that area, when they get done with that, it has already been put through the grapevine that the Jews say their final destination is Africa. Well, it's a lot of other nations who want that same thing, like the French, who just got kicked out, excuse me, and China and Russia and America. All these other nations, they want those resources. They also like that land mass over there. That's a lot of land over there. It's a lot of resources, abundance of resources. But you know the one thing that's missing? They got billions of people. But the one thing that I have been able to try to make sense of, the one thing that's missing is the infrastructure. The infrastructure has not been built. Why is that? After all this time and all the wealth that's being taken out of Africa, that don't you think somebody would have had the decency to build a infrastructure by now? Don't you think somebody out of all these nations that done went in there and took what they wanted to take, don't you think somebody would have had said, let's just build a infrastructure over here so these people can live decent. Well, the Jews have decided that those Negroes have already built a infrastructure in America. So they're going to be the first ones that's going to pop to mind. Somebody got to go over there and build that infrastructure someday. It's got to be built. We clearly know that. We clearly know that the day is going to come when a infrastructure is going to have to be built in Africa. Who you think they will prefer to go over there and do that? Those Negroes and Black American descendants, because they already have a proven track record of building a country for 246 years. They already have a proven track record of building America. I don't know of any other nationalities that have that track record. If anybody know differently, send me that information. So that was one little thought process that's on my mind, that the Jews are cooking up that hate crime bill. And my gut tells me they are making plans to deport descendants of Negro ancestors. Because they want Negro slavery to go away. They want Negro bloodline to go away. They've been trying and trying for decades and years to genocide the Negro bloodline. But now a rumor is running around that the Republicans are planning on making some changes to the 14th Amendment. I want you folks to record this. I have been feeling this way for a long time now. I keep saying that. I don't know if the Republicans are going to win this election, but they don't let the cat out the bag, because this rumor is starting to permeate in the atmosphere that they want to do something about that birth citizenship thing. But I've been saying for the longest, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 does not apply to Negroes. Well, it would apply to Negroes because Negro was the ethnicity for 350 years. But Black American and African American have not been used for over 100 years. It has not been being used. So far, it started being used in 1970. But Negro, it was used for 350 years. But Black American and African American has not been used for not even 100 years yet. So my common sense tells me that when those Republicans who have control of 27 states right now, they got 27 out of 50, and I think it takes 35 states to ratify something. They only 8 away. Don't you think they could probably do a backroom deal with some of those Democrats who have control of those other 8 states and get them to vote? Or they may just have enough votes in them already. But I don't know a lot about that Constitution stuff, so I don't really like to try to speak on it. But from what I can make sense of, that I've been hearing through the grapevine, that the Republicans want to do some changes to that 14th Amendment. My gut tells me if they choose to do so, what's going to stop them from writing into law that Negroes and Black American descendants of Negroes have to relocate back to Africa? Because that definition says that's your origin. For those of you adults who have not went and read it yet, that's exactly what it says. It says Black American and African American are persons belonging to a Black racial group of Africa. America has already removed you from this landmass. That's the sole purpose of that definition on the OMB. A lot of these dots are starting to connect. The Jews hate crime bill, the Jews making it clear that their final destination is Africa. Also, I heard through the grapevine that they were offering folks in Atlanta to relocate back to Africa. So you mean to tell me that these evil human beings are asking to pay folks to relocate back to Africa? Well, you know that playbook. First, they're going to offer to ask you to go. The next time, they're not going to be asking you. They're going to be telling you. First go round, they're going to ask you, do you want to go? The next go round, they're going to be telling you. Because I just can't wrap my brain around why, out of the blue, that these folks are asking to pay people to relocate back to Africa. Well, now folks are talking about tweaking the 14th Amendment. And like I said already, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 does not apply to Black Americans and African Americans. It only applies to immigrants based on the wording. I forgot to add all that. Go, all you adults who think you're so smart, go read the fine print. It's going to be a shocker. It's going to be a shocker. So it may be a good idea for you to have a resuscitation machine standing by. Because sometimes, when you get a shock, you may need to be resuscitated. But it just hit me a few months ago. I was under the same impression that the Civil Rights Act was put into law to help Negroes' ancestors. That's what the movement was all about. For them to finally get some human rights. So they called it civil rights. But it turns out that America had already sabotaged the Civil Rights Act of 1964 before the ink dried. Based on all they had to do was the wording. Because if you go read the wording in the Civil Rights Act and then you go read the definition on the OMB, I want any of you adults to explain how the Civil Rights Act of 1964 applies to Black Americans and African Americans based on the definition on the OMB website. The two don't connect. It just don't connect. And seeing as how everywhere that you see the word Black American and African American, everywhere that America has put the word Black American and African American, they don't mean anything because it's not a recognized ethnicity. It's not a recognized birthright. It's not a recognized national origin. It's not a recognized nation. So everywhere that America has put the word Black American and African American, once you see that word, any one of those two words, the next thing you should go do is go read the definition on the OMB website and ask yourself, do America recognize you as a human being? Do America recognize your birthright? You need to ask yourself that question over and over every single day until it sinks in. Because America has orchestrated this crime and this harm for 54 years, for the past 54 years. For the past 54 years. And they intend, who knows what they got in store for the next 50 years. No telling under the sun what they got in store for the next 50 years. But my gut tells me it spells deporting. They got, and I forgot one other thing. that social grading system that's going on in China. Oh, they're gonna bring that social grading system over here. You're not gonna have that luxury of being able to say what you please, and they can just push a button and shut your life down. Depending, it's a lot of rumors. It's a lot of rumors flying around out there. It's quite a bit of rumors flying around out there. This social grading system, this universal ID, this 14th Amendment being changed, the Jews trying to get a hate crime bill. Yes, Lord, it's quite a bit. It's quite a bit to digest, but my concern is that America have this information on file. I could be wrong, but I'm just going with my gut that America have the blood work on every person. Blood work has been drawn, and they clearly know if it's true that Negro have a blood test, they got that information on file in a database already. They know clearly who matches that blood. If it's not true, but I'm just gonna assume that it's true based on the reaction of the Jews over Kyrie Irving posting a link. I'm gonna base that on Pastor Darby's research. I'm gonna base it on Putin from Russia making his statements, or I'm gonna base it on my own research. What else? I'm gonna base it on the fact that the OMB removed Negro from the census. I'm gonna base it on the fact that America rewrote a whole narrative that slavery was legal. I'm gonna base it on the fact that America refused to put a person's ethnicity on a birth certificate when they were born. I'm gonna base it on the fact that America removed Negro around 1970, and it's been a little over 54 years. Right at 54 years, starting in 1970, that's 50 years, a little past 50 years, right on the nose. So when they started orchestrating that back in 1970, they already knew that the OMB was going to remove Negro on the 28th of March, 2024. See how all those dots connect together? That's all those little dots connect together. But the only problem is that I think there are certain persons who know the information, like Pastor Darby, that there's a blood test for Negro E1B1A. Who matches that E1B1A? America know that because they got the blood work. They got the blood work on every human being in America, because all of us have had blood drawn at some point. So America got that information on file. Who is walking around here that have Negro on a birth certificate, that are descendants of Negroes, that match E1B1A? Who matches that blood result? But okay, let's say that's not true. If that's not true, all of us have to go take a blood test. All of us. Each one of us who have to check that box that say Black/African American, all of us have to go take a blood test, and we have to have a recognized ethnicity. It's that simple. Otherwise, America is going to continue to harm every person who is a descendant of a Negro or a descendant of a slave person, because those persons don't have a recognized birthright. Those persons do not have a recognized identity. Those persons don't have a recognized ethnicity. Those persons don't have a recognized national origin. those persons don't have a recognized nation. But all immigrants do. Am I lying? Can any of you call me a liar? If I am wrong, please correct me. I want to be corrected, because my evaluation is that America recognizes every immigrant, whether they from Germany, whether they from Italy, whether they from Ireland, whether they from Asian, whether they from Canada, whether they from Africa, Ethiopian, Somalia, Nigerian, Jamaicans, Haitians, Bahamas. All these folks have a recognized identity. All these folks walking around on two legs have a recognized birthright. Each one of these persons that have come here, that have migrated or immigrated to America, they have a recognized ethnicity. They have a recognized national origin. They have a recognized nation. So you folks need to get your head out of the sand, because whether the Republicans win or the Democrats win, it already spells demise. Because if you don't make it a priority, your birthright, I don't know why you think anything else is worth fighting for. Because you first have to be recognized as a human being. I mean, if you feel that you have all these priorities about abortion and about this and that, all these other policies, all these legislations that you want to get passed, I don't think any of that takes priority over you having a recognized birthright. That is so, it's so clear now why Jim Crow police get off so easily, based on the way they twist all these different legal words. It makes sense why Jim Crow police don't expect to be found guilty when they murder Negroes and Black American descendants of Negroes and other brown and dark brown skinned person, because you can't be found guilty if the country that you live in, that the country that you operate in, if that country don't recognize you as a human being because your skin is brown or dark brown. How can someone be found guilty of murdering you? How can someone be found guilty of mistreating you? You first have to meet the bar of being recognized as a human being before you get to the next step and the next step. You first got to get that first step recognized. I think a lot of folks gonna be waking up and reinventing themselves. They're gonna wake up maybe a month, 30 days after the election, or 60 days after the election, or 6 months after the election. They're gonna say, well, we just misread it when we heard them talking about wanting to change the 14th Amendment. We didn't think it was any way possible for them to do that. I don't put nothing past evil. I don't understand how you adults can get on a public app and say, oh, that's not possible. That over there is not possible. That's fearmonger. That's fearmonger. That's fearmonger. That's not possible. And I ask myself, when I hear folks saying that, I'm like, did each of us grow up in the same world? Did we each grow up on this same landmass, in this same environment? Because evil doesn't have any boundaries. Am I wrong? I mean, why? How can you fit your mouth to think that things are not possible because somebody says it's a lie. It's fear monger. When you're operating and you're existing in an evil environment, anything is possible. Anything. Anything. Just say the word anything. Anything is possible. When you've been living and operating and existing in an evil environment, anything is possible, including them changing that wording in that 14th Amendment to say whatever they please. They have that ability. If I understand it correctly, they only need 35 states and they already have control over 27. So doing my little math, they only need 8 more. If that's what it takes to ratify whatever changes that they want to make, they can decide to do whatever they please. If they are writing the bill, I'm not going to tell my little brain that that's not possible. I'm just not going to lie to myself that way. You folks may want to do that, but I care about my well-being. I really care about Aquila really care about her well-being. I've been doing a fairly good job of taking care of my well-being for 62 years. Do you think I want to mess up my perfect record? I don't know about you folks. I don't intend to mess up my little perfect record of watching out, looking out for my well-being. I've been doing a good job of it for 62 years. Do you think I'm going to just throw my hands up in the air and pretend like I'm incognito, that I haven't been living in an environment that's evil, that's racist, that's discriminating, that's everything under the sun? I'm not going to wake up and say, Aquilin, what they talking about over there ain't no chance in hell of it happening. I ain't about to do that, because I have a brain in my head. I know how to do critical thinking. I know how to do logical thinking. And my mother taught me well. Oh, yes, she did. Oh, mom did not play around when it came to her teaching. She was always preaching. And I was the baby girl. And I used to joke with my brothers and sisters that mom is going to preach to us today. And she did. Every day she felt like doing it, she went at it. And my little joke with my brothers and sisters was, mom is going to preach today. And she preached. But I couldn't say it out loud to her, because she would have knocked me. She would knock the senses out of me. If she would have ever heard me say that, she would have knocked me to Timbuktu. And I did not want to get knocked, my senses knocked out of me. So that was just a little joke between me and my brothers and sisters. And I ain't never said it out loud to my mom. And I may she rest in peace. I would never be brave enough to do that. But anyway, for all you brain dead human beings, I'm getting ready to close it out. Y'all better be paying attention. And if you are been determined to be, if each of you adults don't want this harm to be passed down to your children and grandkids, if you don't want this 54 years of harm to be passed down to your children and grandkids for the next 50 years, then you should start, each of you should start using your voice and your platform and boycott and demand that America recognizes your birthright. That is what I wake up to do every day. That's what I do every day. I wake up, that every chance I get to put Negro in print or in what I post, I'm telling America and the whole world, this is my birthright. And I think it's past time. It's past time for America to call all of us in and say we have to take a blood test. All of us have to come in and take a blood test. If folks don't want to believe that Negro is a true bloodline, then all of us have to come in and take a blood test. And it has to be determined once and for all. What is our true bloodline? What is our ethnicity? That has to get done. Otherwise, the children and the grandkids are going to be harmed. They will have to function in a world without an identity, without a birthright, without a ethnicity, without a national origin, without a nation. So all of you adults that keep running around here claiming to be Black American, African American, Freedmen, ADOS, and FBA, all of us have to go take a blood test. Each one of us. And we have to force America to recognize each one of our birthright. I'm waiting to see if you human beings are ever going to get the backbone to boycott. I don't. All I know is that I got my birth certificate. I got my mother's paperwork. I have my grandfather's paperwork. I have my great-grandfather's paperwork. It's downloaded. It's downloaded on a disk. And I'm not giving it up. No one is getting those documentations. No one is getting any one of those documents. When I die, I'm going to make sure I leave instructions for my daughter not to give it up. I'm going to make sure, because I've already told her this more times than I can count. She's probably tired of hearing her mother talk about it. I'm sure my daughter is quite tired of hearing her mother talk about it. But I don't care. She can keep on being tired about it, because I'm going to keep right on talking about it until I die. So that's what has to get done. Otherwise, America and the Jews in the whole world are going to continue to prioritize all immigrants and all persons who have a recognized ethnicity, all persons who have a recognized national origin, and all persons that have a nation. So there's only a little over 50 million human beings that don't have a recognized ethnicity, a recognized national origin, a recognized nation. So I hope and pray that each of you adults will find a backbone to demand that America recognize your birthright, so that this harm will not get passed down to your children and grandkids for the next 50 years. I'm waiting to see if there's any sign of that demand being made, because just running around keeping on claiming to be Black American, keeping on claiming to be African American, keeping on claiming to be Freedmen, and keeping on claiming to be ADOS and FBA, it's not going to stop the harm. When you wake up tomorrow, it's going to be another 24 hours of harm. When you wake up the next day, it's going to be another 24 hours of harm. It's not going away, so you can bury your head in the sand. You can talk about sports. You can talk about music. You can talk about everything under the sun and pretend like it's not there. You'll believe it when those Jews in that Congress and that Senate pass that bill that deport your behind back to Africa. Then you'll start believing it. And the last thing I'm going to say, I don't know why you human beings running around here constantly saying the word hate. In all my 62 years of being on this earth, brown and dark brown skinned human beings should be the last human beings on the earth that use the word hate. I would expect pink, pale Caucasians and all these other ethnicities to use the word hate, because it's been their weapon. But the very people, the very human beings that have been harmed by a word called hate, they use it more than the enemy. It's kind of odd. It's quite odd. You put it in titles, you call each other hate. You say, I hate this person, I hate that person. Oh, they already don't paint the whole narrative that FBA is a hate group, ADOS is a hate group. I think Freedmen is on there. It's a hate group. I don't understand why y'all don't understand your enemy is going to change, to reverse that. Every time you say the word hate, you are laying the groundwork for them to get a bill passed somewhere down the road. They already don't pass one for the Asians. You would have thought that you persons with brown and dark brown skin would stop using the word, but you didn't. When the Asians got their hate crime bill, y'all just went up a couple of notches. It's like the light bulb didn't even go off. Y'all just started using it more. Well, I guess you folks, y'all working toward trying to help the Jews get their hate crime bill, because it's coming. And every time one of you with brown and dark brown skin use the word hate, just know you help get that hate crime bill passed. It's downright bizarre. I would expect to hear the word hate coming out of racist KKK persons, the Proud Boys, the pink and pale people, the Asians, the Germans, the Irish, the Italians, all those persons who do not have my skin color. I would expect to hear the word hate come out of their mouth. It wouldn't shock me. But I hear it coming out of folks' mouth who have skin tone like myself. It's downright shocking that I'm asking myself, don't they realize they are laying the groundwork for their enemy to get a hate crime bill passed at some point? They already got one. The Jews are working on one. And before long, now even the Caucasians are trying to claim they are the most hated folks, because they just don't heard you folks use that word so many times to call each other hate. They said, well, thank you kindly. Thank you kindly. You made our job really easy. Y'all, it's just, I can't wrap my brain around it. But I just wanted it to be clear. I wanted it to be absolutely clear that you folks understand that you are helping America erase 246 years. And you ain't got long to wait, because they already done started rewriting the books. The governors in Florida, they quite busy. They don't want you to use the word racism. They don't want Negro history to be taught. So they all are working in their own little way to erase that slavery, to wash that blood off of their hands. I don't know how close they are to completing that agenda, but they start working on their evil intentions at least 50 to 100 years out. So it's been a little over 50 years. So they got to be kind of close. Based on my calculations, they got to be kind of close to completing, because it's been over 50 years already. So they normally start working on whatever they're trying to get accomplished at least 50 years to 100 years out. So we're right there in the middle. We're right there in the middle. But it's really sad. It's downright sad that ancestors that went through slavery, all the ancestors that went through slavery could have never have thought that their descendants would not fight to protect and preserve that sacrifice that they made for 246 years. That's the most painful part. It's very painful. I'm not going to sit up here and try to hide that reality that I feel that those persons, my ancestors and other persons' ancestors, they went through 246 years of living hell. And now adults in the 21st century care more about protecting a word called Black American, African American, and Freedmen, and ADOS and FBA than they do about that 246 years. It's downright sad. It really is. But the scariest part after that is that they are planning on deporting that bloodline. They have done everything in their power to try to genocide the Negro bloodline. They rescinded Special Field Order 15. They made my ancestor and many other persons' ancestors slaves for 246 years. And they don't want to pay the debt for that. They want to forget it like it never happened. So my personal prediction, in about 5 years, when someone mentions the word Negro, slavery, a person that you're talking to, they're going to look at you like you're crazy. They're literally going to look at you like you're crazy, because they're not going to be able to pull out a little phone and do a search for a word called NegroSlavery and it pop up in the search result. In about 5 years, if America and the whole world get their way, it's going to be like NegroSlavery. Never, never, never happen. That's what they want to do. And I think they're halfway there, because you're already starting to see the Irish, the Germans are already laying the groundwork for their little narrative that they were the first indentured servants in America. They've been running around laying the groundwork of that narrative for who knows how long. Then we got the Latinos and the Mexicans going on MSNBC claiming that they were part of building America. You got the Asians claiming that they were working on the railroads. Everybody got a little stir. We got folks in Jamaica. We got immigrants from Jamaica, Haiti, the continent claiming they were here. Everybody is working on their little narrative to include themselves in that 246 years, while the Negroes are being erased, while everyone else that have a recognized ethnicity, a recognized national origin, a recognized nation, now all of them all of a sudden want to claim they were over here during that 246 years, and they did not come after 1865. All of a sudden, they are claiming they were here before 1865. They didn't get here 20 years later, 10 years later. Oh, they were here on this landmass in America before 1865. But all you folks who are doing that, and you are party to that, you're going to be judged one day. Each one of you, all these nations are going to be judged. All us individual human beings who played our part, who painted a lying narrative. It's all being recorded in the book. And each one of us are going to answer for it. Each one of us are going to answer for it before we leave this world. Before we take our last breath, we are going to answer for it. Because the truth is the truth. The truth is the truth. And you can lie. You can lie until you can't lie no more. But there's one person that know the truth. That's the Heavenly Father. That's the one person that know the truth. So, if you're telling the truth, you ain't got no worries. If you've been telling the truth, you ain't got one worry at all. All them folks who claim that they came from Ireland and they got here before the Negroes and they were slaves, if they telling the truth, they ain't got no worries. All those folks who came from Germany, if they telling the truth, they got here first and they were indentured servants, they were the first slaves, then if they telling the truth, they ain't got nothing to worry about. All you folks who came from Jamaica and the continent of Africa, Latinos and Mexicans and Asian, if all you folks got here to America's landmass before 1865, if someone in your bloodline got to America before 1865, then you're telling the truth. But if they didn't, then you're telling a lie. So that's it for me. I'm getting ready to shut it down. I'm going to shut my room down and relax tonight. I just need some quiet time. I really just need some quiet time. But I really wanted to try to come on here and explain and break it down in as simple as terms as possible to try to hope that collectively we can understand the danger that we're in. We are in some real danger here. And it's so evil because the Negroes and the Black American descendants of Negroes, and even those persons who currently identify as freedmen and ADOS and FBA. Now, we clearly know African American is made up. It's just downright foolish to even say the word out your mouth. It really is. It's downright criminal to even say that word out your mouth. Because no human being is born African American. But that's what I said again. All of us have to go take a blood test. That's where we at. We have to force America to recognize each one of our birthright. Because America is going to continue to orchestrate our demise. And I just cannot, in good conscience, not do everything that I can do to not to pass this on to my daughter. I just can't do it. I can't do it to my daughter or any other child. Because I'm 62. It's not a whole lot more they can do to me. I don't know if the good Lord going to keep me here for another 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. I don't know. But I've been blessed to stay here for 62 years. The good Lord blessed me to stay here for 62 years. I don't know. I don't know how much more time I got left. But I hope and pray with whatever amount of time I got that I can do everything in my power to make a difference. My mother raised me that way. me and my brothers and sisters. She always made it clear that we had to remember. She said, you're going to have to remember to always reach back and try to help that person that may be less fortunate than yourself. That's the one thing she hammered home 24/7 to each one of us. She wanted to make sure we didn't remember anything else that she taught us. That was the one thing that she wanted us to remember till we took our last breath. And I just constantly think about it, because I can't count the number of times that she kept on saying it out of her mouth. So I knew it had to be important to her, because whenever something was very important to my mother, she kept repeating it. So I can't, in good conscience, pass this harm down to my daughter or anyone else, because every human being deserves a birthright. That's a special gift from God. Every human being is entitled to a birthright. They were given that birthright when they took their first breath. America and the whole world and Pan-African and all these other nations don't have the right to rob Negroes and Black American descendants of their birthright. They don't have a right to do that. And they're not going to get away with it. They're not going to get away with it. They may think they are going to get away with it, but they're not. Stay tuned. I'm a land on that. Just stay tuned. All you folks, just stay tuned. Your day is coming. Your just due is coming. It's not far off. It's coming. So y'all take care. Take care and have a good night. Thank you for popping in. I just got to shut it down. It's just upsetting me too much. So I'm going to end on that note. Stay alert. Stay alert. Thank you for popping in, taking time out your evening and popping in for the broadcast. I really appreciate it. Take care.